Jazz. I always believed that the happiest day of a woman's life would be her wedding day. Mine became the day that destroyed everything I thought I knew. Jazz. If someone had told me that I would walk into a church wearing a white wedding dress, ready to marry the man I had loved for 3 years, and leave that same church as the wife of his father, Jazz, I would have laughed in disbelief. But life doesn't ask for permission before it changes everything. My name is Emily Carter, and this is the story of how betrayal almost broke me. Jazz. Until the most unexpected person gave me a reason to believe in love again. It all started on a bright Saturday morning. The church was decorated with thousands of white roses. Jazz. Soft music floated through the hall. Friends and family smiled as they waited for the ceremony to begin. Everything looked perfect, at least from the outside. Inside the bridal room, Jazz, my hands were shaking. Not because I was nervous about getting married, because something didn't feel right. For the past few weeks, Ryan had been acting differently. He answered my calls less often. Jazz. He always seemed distracted. Whenever I asked if something was wrong, he smiled and kissed my forehead. "You're imagining things," he would say. "I've just been busy with work." I wanted to believe him. Jazz. Love makes you ignore the warning signs your heart is trying to show you. My best friend, Sophie, adjusted my veil and smiled. "You look beautiful." I forced a smile back. "Do I?" Jazz. "You look like every girl's dream." "I don't feel like it." She frowned. "Still thinking about Ryan?" I nodded slowly. "I don't know why, but I feel like something bad is going to happen today." Jazz. She laughed softly. "That's just wedding nerves." Maybe she was right. Maybe I was overthinking. Or maybe my heart already knew the truth. A knock came at the door. My father stepped inside. Jazz. His eyes filled with tears the moment he saw me. "My little girl." He hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you." Those words almost made me cry. Growing up, Jazz, my father had always worked long hours to give me a better life. He never bought expensive things for himself. Every extra pound he earned went toward my education. Today, he looked happier than I had ever seen him. That made what happened next even more painful. The wedding coordinator walked in. "It's time." Everyone stood. The music began. The church doors slowly opened. Jazz. Every guest turned to look at me. I took my father's arm, one step then another. I searched for Ryan at the altar. But he wasn't there. Instead, people were whispering. The priest looked confused. Jazz. Ryan's mother looked pale. The musicians slowly stopped playing. The silence became louder than the music. "Where is Ryan?" I whispered. No one answered. My father looked around nervously. Jazz. The wedding coordinator hurried towards someone near the entrance. Seconds felt like hours. Then my phone vibrated inside my bouquet. A message from Ryan. My heart raced. I smiled with relief. Jazz. Maybe he was just running late. I opened the message. The smile disappeared. "I'm sorry, Emily. I never loved you enough to marry you. I'm leaving with someone else. Don't look for me. Goodbye." Jazz. My hands froze. The bouquet slipped from my fingers. The flowers scattered across the church floor. "What happened?" my father asked. I couldn't speak. I simply handed him the phone. Jazz. His face turned white. "No." The whispers around us grew louder. "Did the groom leave? Is this some kind of joke?" I heard he ran away. Poor girl. Every word felt like another knife in my heart. Jazz. I wanted the floor to open beneath me. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I stood there in my wedding dress, while hundreds of people watched my life fall apart. Tears blurred my vision. I couldn't breathe. Jazz. I turned around. "I can't do this." I started walking toward the exit. Every step felt heavier than the last. Then a deep voice stopped me. "Emily." I turned. Jazz. Standing near the front row was Richard Harrison, Ryan's father, one of the most respected businessmen in the city. Tall, calm, always serious. I had only met him a few times. Jazz. He rarely attended family dinners because of work. Ryan often described him as cold, heartless, impossible to please. But today, he looked different. His eyes held something I had never seen before. Regret. He slowly walked toward me. The entire church watched in complete silence. "I'm deeply sorry," he said quietly. "I had no idea my son would do something like this." I couldn't answer. "What could I possibly?" he continued. "You don't deserve this." A tear rolled down my cheek. "No," I whispered. "I guess I do." He shook his head immediately. "No, Emily. You deserve respect, Jazz. You deserve honesty. You deserved a man who kept his promises." His words hurt because they were true. Behind him, Ryan's mother broke down crying. "I didn't know," she kept saying. "Jazz, I swear I didn't know." The guests looked uncomfortable. Some quietly left their seats. Others took out their phones. I knew exactly what would happen next. Within hours, pictures would spread online. Jazz. Bride abandoned at the altar. Wedding disaster. Another love story ends in heartbreak. My humiliation would become everyone's entertainment. I closed my eyes. "This is the worst day of my life, Jazz." Richard remained silent for a moment. Then he asked a question that changed everything. "What if it doesn't have to be?" I looked at him confused. "What do you mean?" He took a slow breath. "Jazz, my family's name brought you into this pain. I want to make things right." I frowned. "How?" He looked directly into my eyes. "Jazz, so that no one leaves this church remembering you as the bride who was abandoned. Marry me instead." The entire church gasped. Someone dropped a glass near the back. "Jazz." Even the priest looked stunned. I stared at him, certain I had misunderstood. "What did you just say? I know how impossible this sounds, but hear me out. You will not be forced, Jazz. You can refuse, but if you say yes, I promise one thing. I will spend every day making sure you never regret that decision." I couldn't think. Had I lost my mind? Was this some strange dream? Jazz. Marry my boyfriend's father? It sounded impossible, ridiculous, unbelievable. Yet something in his voice wasn't desperate, it wasn't selfish, it was sincere. My father stepped forward. "Richard, are you serious?" "I've never been more serious. I cannot undo what my son has done. But I refuse to let an innocent young woman carry the shame he created." The church fell silent again. Jazz. Every eye was fixed on me. I looked at the wedding dress I had chosen with so much excitement. Just an hour ago, I believed it represented the beginning of my forever. Jazz. Now it felt like a reminder of betrayal. I wiped away my tears. My heart was broken. My future was uncertain. And somehow, Jazz, the man everyone called cold, was the only person standing beside me when everyone else had disappeared. I looked into Richard's eyes one more time. For the first time that day, Jazz, I saw kindness instead of pity, hope instead of embarrassment, and a promise that somehow felt real. I had no idea that the decision I was about to make would change not only my life, Jazz, but the lives of everyone who had ever underestimated me. The moment Richard asked me to marry him, the entire church seemed to disappear. The whispers faded. The music stopped. Jazz. Even my own heartbeat felt distant. I looked at the man standing in front of me, Richard Harrison, the man I had always known as Ryan's distant father, successful, reserved, powerful, Jazz. A man who rarely smiled, a man everyone respected, but very few truly knew. How could someone like him make such an unbelievable offer? I couldn't answer, not yet, because my mind had gone somewhere else. Jazz. Back to the beginning. Back to the day I first met Ryan. Maybe if I had noticed the truth then, none of this would have happened. 3 years earlier, I was 24 years old, Jazz, working as a junior interior designer. My life wasn't glamorous. I rented a tiny apartment with peeling paint. My car made strange noises every morning. Most months, Jazz, I had just enough money to pay my bills. Still, I was happy. My parents had raised me to believe that kindness mattered more than money. Hard work mattered more than luck, Jazz. Character mattered more than appearances. One rainy evening after work, I stopped at a small cafe near my office. Every table was full except one. A young man smiled. Jazz, you can sit here if you don't mind sharing. That was Ryan. He was handsome without trying too hard, dark hair, friendly smile, confident eyes. Jazz. He wore simple clothes and spoke with warmth that made people feel comfortable. We talked for nearly 2 hours about work, books, travel, dreams, funny childhood memories. It felt effortless. Jazz. When we finally left, he asked, "Can I see you again?" I smiled. I'd like that. At that moment, I believed destiny had introduced us. I had no idea destiny sometimes wears a mask. Jazz. The man I thought I knew, our relationship moved quickly. Ryan always knew the right thing to say. He brought flowers to my office. He remembered every important date. Jazz. He surprised me with handwritten notes. When I was sick, he stayed beside me all night. When I doubted myself, he reminded me of my dreams. My friends adored him. My parents welcomed him like family. Jazz. Even strangers would smile when they saw us together. You two are perfect. I heard those words more times than I could count. Eventually, I believed them too. 6 months later, Jazz. Ryan introduced me to his family. His mother hugged me immediately. You are exactly the kind of woman I've always wanted for my son. She made me feel at home from the first day. Jazz. But meeting Richard Harrison was different. He arrived late from work, still wearing a dark suit, looking exhausted. He shook my hand politely. "It's nice to meet you, Emily." His voice was calm, respectful, but brief. He excused himself after dinner because he had another business meeting. Ryan rolled his eyes. "That's my father. Work always comes first." I nodded. It seemed believable. Jazz. Successful people were busy. I didn't think much about it. Over the next 2 years, Ryan seemed almost flawless. He encouraged my career. When I received a promotion, Jazz. He celebrated as if it were his own success. When I doubted whether I deserved it, he laughed. "You're smarter than you think." Slowly, he became my entire world. I trusted him with everything. Jazz. My dreams, my fears, even the savings I had worked years to build. One evening he looked nervous. "Emily, I need your help." His business project had failed. He needed money quickly. "Jazz, I'll pay you back. I promise." Without hesitation, I transferred the money. It wasn't a fortune, but it was everything I had saved. My father asked quietly, "Are you sure?" I smiled. "Jazz, he's my future husband. We're building our future together." Dad didn't argue, but something about his silence stayed with me. After that, small things began to change. Nothing dramatic, Jazz. Just enough to make me wonder. Ryan became secretive with his phone. Whenever I entered the room, he locked the screen. Late-night phone calls became common. Business trips appeared without warning. Jazz. Sometimes he disappeared for entire weekends. Whenever I asked questions, he had answers, always believable, always calm. "Work is stressful." My client changed the schedule. My phone battery died. Every explanation sounded reasonable, until they started piling up. My best friend Sophie noticed before I did. "Emily, something feels off." I laughed. "You're imagining things," she sighed. "Jazz, I hope I am." Love has a strange way of protecting lies, not because the lies are clever, because we desperately want them to be true. Jazz. The proposal. One evening, Ryan invited me to the rooftop of an old hotel. Hundreds of fairy lights surrounded us. Soft music played. The city sparkled below. He knelt down. "Emily Carter, you are my best friend, my home, my future. Will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes. Yes, of course. Everyone around us applauded. It felt magical. Looking back, Jazz. I wonder if he already knew the truth. Did he already know he would never become my husband? Was every promise already empty? I'll probably never know. 3 months before the wedding, Jazz. Something happened that should have opened my eyes. Ryan and I were supposed to have dinner. He cancelled. Emergency meeting. I believed him. On my way home, I passed an expensive restaurant, Jazz. Through the window, I saw Ryan. He wasn't alone. A beautiful woman wearing a red dress sat across from him. They were laughing. She touched his hand. He didn't pull away. My heart stopped, Jazz. Before I could walk inside, Ryan looked up. Our eyes met for 1 second. Fear crossed his face. Then he rushed outside. Emily, it's not what you think. She's a client, Jazz. A very important client. I stared at him. Clients hold your hand. He laughed awkwardly. She's emotional. Her company is going through problems. I was comforting her. It sounded ridiculous, Jazz. But then he hugged me. I'm marrying you. Why would I risk losing you? Those words defeated my doubts. I apologized today. I wish I hadn't. A month before the wedding, Jazz. Richard unexpectedly invited me to lunch. It surprised me. We had barely spoken over the years. I'd like to get to know my future daughter-in-law. We met at a quiet restaurant. He asked about my work, Jazz. My parents, my dreams, unlike Ryan. He listened carefully. He never interrupted. Halfway through lunch, he became unusually quiet. Emily, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy, Jazz? The question caught me off guard. I love Ryan. He nodded slowly. That wasn't my question. I looked away. I think I am. He watched me for several seconds, almost as if he wanted to say something, Jazz. Instead, he smiled politely. If you're happy, then that's what matters. As he left, he looked strangely worried. At the time, I thought he simply struggled to express emotions. Now, Jazz, I realize he may have been carrying a burden he didn't yet know how to reveal. The week before the wedding, the closer we got to the ceremony, the stranger Ryan became, Jazz. He stopped talking about our honeymoon. He delayed choosing furniture for our future home. He barely looked at wedding invitations. Whenever I mentioned our future, he changed the subject, Jazz. One evening I found him standing alone on the balcony. What are you thinking about? He forced a smile. Nothing. You've been different. I'm just stressed. You still want this wedding, don't you? He looked directly into my eyes. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he kissed my forehead. I'll see you at the altar. Those were the last words he ever spoke to me as my fiancé, Jazz. The next time I heard from him, it wasn't in person, it was a message. I'm sorry, I'm leaving with someone else. Those words shattered the beautiful love story I had believed in for 3 years, Jazz. But as I stood in that silent church, still wearing my wedding dress, I had no idea that Ryan's betrayal was only the beginning, because hidden beneath his lies, Jazz, was a family secret so shocking that it would explain everything. And once that secret came into the light, no one, not Ryan, not his new lover, not even Richard Harrison, would ever be the same again, Jazz. The church was still silent. No one moved. No one even seemed to breathe. Ryan's message was still open on my phone. I'm sorry, I'm leaving with someone else. Don't look for me, Jazz. Those cold words echoed inside my mind again and again. A few minutes earlier, I had been a bride. Now I was simply the woman everyone pitied. I could feel hundreds of eyes watching me, Jazz. Some filled with sympathy, others filled with curiosity. I knew what they were thinking. Poor girl. How embarrassing. How will she ever recover from this? If shame had a sound, Jazz, it would have been the whispers filling that church. I wanted to run, to lock myself inside my apartment, to disappear from everyone's memory. But before I could take another step, Jazz, Richard Harrison spoke. Emily. His voice wasn't loud, yet somehow, everyone became quiet. He walked toward me slowly, keeping a respectful distance. I know nothing I say can erase today, Jazz. His eyes met mine. But I need you to know something. I had no idea Ryan planned this. For the first time since reading Ryan's message, I looked directly at him. His face carried no anger, Gaz, no embarrassment, only disappointment, not in me, in his own son. Everyone in the city knew Richard Harrison. The newspapers called him a business genius, Gaz. Television interviews described him as one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the country. People admired his success, but they also feared him. The stories about him were everywhere, Gaz. He's impossible to please. He only cares about work. Money is the only thing that matters to him. Even Ryan often complained. My father never came to my football matches. He missed birthdays, Gaz. He was always traveling. He loves business more than family. After hearing those stories for years, I built an image of Richard in my mind, a cold man, a distant father, Gaz. Someone who measured everything in numbers. Standing before him now, that image no longer matched reality, because the man looking at me seemed deeply hurt. As Richard apologized, Gaz, I suddenly remembered our lunch together a month earlier. At the time, it had felt strange. Now it felt important. He had asked me only one personal question. Are you happy? Back then, Gaz, I thought it was casual conversation. Now I wondered, had he already sensed something? Had he seen cracks in Ryan that everyone else ignored? His expression that day suddenly made sense, Gaz. It wasn't coldness, it was concern. Concern he didn't know how to express. Richard turned toward the guests. I owe every one of you an apology. The room remained silent, Gaz. My son has dishonored this family today. Those words shocked everyone. Most parents would have defended their child, made excuses, blamed someone else. Richard did neither. He accepted responsibility, Gaz. I raised him. I taught him, and somehow I failed. Ryan's mother covered her face with her hands and cried harder. Watching them broke my heart because I realized something. I wasn't the only victim. Ryan had betrayed his entire family. My father quietly stepped beside Richard. I've known you for years. Richard nodded. Not closely, but enough. Dad looked at me, Emily. There's something I never told you. I frowned. What? When your mother became seriously ill 8 years ago, we couldn't afford the treatment. I stared at him. Gaz, we told you insurance covered everything. It didn't. I felt my heart skip. Then who paid? Dad looked at Richard. He did. I turned slowly. Richard immediately shook his head. You weren't supposed to know. Tears filled my eyes. You helped us? He looked uncomfortable. It wasn't important. It was everything. He sighed softly. Gaz, your father worked for one of my suppliers years ago. When I heard what happened, I simply did what anyone should do. No, I whispered. Most people wouldn't. He looked away. Gaz, I don't like seeing good people suffer. That sentence changed something inside me. For years, people had described him as selfish, Gaz. Yet he had quietly paid hospital bills without asking for recognition. He had never told anyone, not even his own son. Richard smiled sadly. People believe I chose work over family, Gaz. Maybe they're right, but they never asked why. His voice grew quieter. When Ryan was 6 years old, our company nearly collapsed. We were days away from losing everything, Gaz. I worked 16 hours a day. I traveled constantly. I missed birthdays. I missed school events. I even missed anniversaries. His eyes filled with regret. I kept telling myself, Gaz, one more year, one more deal, one more sacrifice. Then everything will be better. He laughed bitterly. The problem is there's always one more year. I could hear the pain in every word. Gaz, I gave my family financial security, but I lost moments I'll never get back. For the first time, I didn't see a billionaire. I saw a father carrying years of regret. Gaz. Richard looked toward the empty altar where Ryan should have been standing. I tried to give him every opportunity, the best schools, the best teachers, a successful future. Gaz. But somewhere along the way, he stopped valuing honesty. I stayed silent, Richard continued. I warned him many times. Money can solve many problems, but it can never repair broken character. Gaz. The church remained completely still. Every guest listened, because these weren't the words of a businessman. They were the words of a broken father. Richard looked back at me. Emily, Gaz. My proposal wasn't about saving my reputation. It wasn't about protecting the Harrison name. If that's what you think, then I understand why you'd refuse. I swallowed hard. Then why, Gaz? He answered without hesitation. Because I watched an innocent woman lose everything in front of hundreds of people. No one deserves that. I cannot undo Ryan's betrayal, Gaz. But I can stop today from becoming the day your life ends. His honesty caught me off guard. He wasn't asking for romance. He wasn't asking for love. He was offering dignity. Gaz. My father gently touched my shoulder. Can we talk outside? I nodded. We stepped into the quiet church garden. The fresh air felt cold against my face. Dad looked at me with tears in his eyes. Gaz. I won't tell you what to do. I just want you to think carefully. I know. He sighed. If you walk away today, no one will blame you. If you accept, people will judge you. They'll gossip, Gaz. They'll make up stories. I nodded slowly. I know. He smiled gently. But remember something. The people who gossip never have to live your life. You do. Those words stayed with me, Gaz. When we returned inside, Richard was standing exactly where we had left him. He hadn't moved. He hadn't pressured me. He had simply waited. That alone told me something about his character. Gaz. Ryan always hated waiting. Everything had to happen on his schedule. Richard was different. He respected my silence, my confusion, my pain. For the first time that day, I realized something surprising. Gaz. The man I thought I knew for 3 years had abandoned me with a text message. The man I barely knew had stood beside me through my worst moment. Sometimes, Gaz, character isn't revealed during happy times. It's revealed when everything falls apart. I walked slowly toward Richard. He looked at me but said nothing. I took a deep breath. If I said yes, Gaz, what would this marriage mean to you? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he thought carefully. Finally, he spoke. It would mean responsibility. It would mean respect, Gaz. It would mean protecting someone who has already suffered enough. He paused. I would never ask you to love me. I would only ask for the chance to earn your trust, Gaz. Those words settled deep inside my heart, not because they were romantic, but because they were honest. For the first time all day, someone wasn't making promises they couldn't keep, Gaz. And although I didn't know it yet, the greatest secret of the Harrison family was still hidden. A secret that would explain why Ryan had really disappeared, Gaz, and why Richard seemed determined to protect me at any cost. I looked into Richard's eyes one last time. For the first time that day, I didn't see Ryan's father, Gaz. I saw a man who had chosen honesty over pride, responsibility over reputation, and kindness over convenience. Taking a deep breath, I nodded. Yes, I whispered, I'll marry you, Gaz. The church fell silent before gentle applause slowly filled the room. It wasn't the joyful celebration I had imagined as a little girl, but it was something far more meaningful, Gaz. It was the beginning of a new chapter built on truth instead of lies. Our marriage didn't begin with romance. It began with respect. Richard never expected me to become his wife overnight in every sense, Gaz. He gave me my own space, encouraged me to continue my career, and reminded me every day that I was free to make my own choices. He never tried to replace my pain with expensive gifts, Gaz, but he quietly supported my dreams. Months passed, and I began to see the man hidden behind the billionaire image. He remembered how I liked my morning coffee. He celebrated every success in my career, Gaz. He called my parents every week just to ask how they were doing. He never raised his voice, even during disagreements. For the first time in my life, I understood that real love wasn't about grand promises. It was about showing up every single day. Meanwhile, Ryan's life began to fall apart. The woman he had run away with left him, after discovering he had no access to his father's company or fortune. Richard had already made it clear that honesty mattered more than family name. Ryan was removed from every leadership role and told he would have to build his future on his own. One rainy afternoon, nearly a year later, Ryan stood outside our home. I made the biggest mistake of my life, he admitted. I want another chance. I looked at him calmly. The woman you betrayed no longer exists. I forgave you, but I won't go backwards. Without anger or revenge, I closed the door. That was my victory, not because he lost everything, but because I had finally found my peace. 2 years later, Richard and I renewed our vows in a quiet garden surrounded by close family and friends. There were no whispers, no pity, and no broken promises. Only smiles, only trust. As I looked around, I realized something beautiful. The wedding that had once felt like the end of my life had actually been the beginning of it. Sometimes, the people who hurt us simply make room for the people who truly value us. Ryan taught me what betrayal looked like. Richard taught me what respect felt like. And that made all the difference. Moral of the story: life doesn't always give us the ending we planned, but it often gives us the ending we need. Never judge your future by your worst day. Sometimes, a closed door protects you from a lifetime of regret, while an unexpected one leads you to the happiness you never imagined.